that's kind of a big part of it to me is being friends with the people you're in a band with. That's kind of a major issue. If you don't get along with the people you're playing music with, then why bother in my book?
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If the two of you would be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Yeah, hi. I'm Chris Spencer from Human Impact.
I'm Jim Coleman from Human Impact.
Chris and Jim, welcome back.
Thank you.
Human Impact were on the podcast once before. Back in 2020, we spoke about the self-titled debut. How would you describe the music of Human Impact? What is Human Impact?
Jim?
I'd say it's realistic. It's I don't know. For me, it feels like honest. It feels like a not just a reflection, but a processing of the world we live in on a number of levels. It's a creative act that's in defiance of that world at times, and it's also like through processing. It's a process of acceptance of the world that we're in. If that makes sense. Sonically, I'd say it's focused and uncompromising.
Chris, is there anything you want to add to that?
I mean, music is an interesting thing to try and describe because you really just got to listen to it. Honestly, we do it the way we do, for a reason. I think it is sort of hard to describe. Human Impact is definitely something of on a lyrical content sort of level, sort of a commentary on what we're all kind of going through right now in the world, what I'm going through, what Jim's going through. It's not really about my girlfriend's breaking up with me or whatever the case. It's not about really as so much my personal problems. And then the music is also very cathartic for me, at least, a way to sort of get stuff off my chest that I've realized, a fair amount of other people feel the same way. So it's kind of a good way to sort of all sort of have this catharsis of music and music. So there we go.
Jim, you're known for your work with Cop Shoot Cop, and Chris, you're known for your time in Unsane. For people who are familiar with those two bands, would it be fair to say that Human Impact has a lot of the elements of those two bands in its sound?
I think it has some of the elements, but I think it kind of takes it a little bit further. Jim does a lot more stuff in this. There's a lot more layering of his electronics, I feel like. Jim, you can elaborate on that if you want. But in terms of my aspect, my stuff in the band, it's also a little more developed. Unsane's very raw, very sort of, just super simple and cathartic. And this contains some of that, but at the same time also has, I feel, a little more development, which I kind of enjoy. So anyway, Jim.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird. Like, so I think like, our histories is part of our present, right? So yeah, you're going to hear some Unsane, you're going to hear some Cop Shoot Cop in there. And, we're maybe inhabiting a similar space as far as more aggressive sound. But yeah, I feel like our palette is a bit different, our sonic palette. And it's weird. I think even on a equipment level, right? Like so much of the stuff I was doing with Cop was on this Akai S3000 sampler. It was all samples, and it was just like an Akai S3000 sampler and a control keyboard. And I actually, like, for the first time in years, I finally, just yesterday, I've been going through like different like SyQuest drives and zip disks from ages ago, and I was able to connect that thing and like kind of like access some of those old sounds. But that gave things a very particular sound. What we're working with Human Impact is much more expansive. And Chris and I have talked recently about like trying to like maybe, I don't know. I mean, that expansiveness is part of what we're doing, but it's like that, there's a challenging kind of focusing and simplification, right? To me, that's part of the creative process. I'm kind of a maximalist. I throw a lot of stuff at the wall, and then like creativity is like seeing like what sticks. I think I veered off topic a little bit, but I don't know. Hopefully I answered a little bit of what you're talking about.
So the last time we spoke was 2020, which was a wonderful year for all of us. I think we can all agree. Can you bring listeners up to speed as far as what you guys have been up to with Human Impact since then?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, 2020 debut album, right? Came out March 13th, right? As, New York City was shutting down and a lot of the country was shutting down. So we had some stuff lined up at that point, tours and that just kind of, a lot of stuff didn't happen, right? We put out the EP in the interim, where, this is kind of our second, like, real full length record. We've done some touring in the States. We've done some touring in Europe, but we feel like, this record definitely shows like development, I think, in terms of like what our sound is and how we work as a band. And we're looking forward to getting out to play live shows with this.
Well, one thing that has changed is the lineup for Human Impact. Do you want to speak about the two new members?
Oh, John and Coop. Yeah, during the pandemic, during lockdown, I had bought off this friend of my grandfather, cabin out in the woods on a piece of land out in the national forest in Texas, and was out there fixing it up. And Cooper, who I had known from New York since almost as long as I've known Jim, which is an eternity. But so Cooper had a place in Austin that had a like rehearsal space in his garage, and John Siverson was there as well. There had been some issues in his old band Daughters. So during lockdown, we all really just wanted to play. So we started just playing super early Unsane stuff, the very first record and stuff, and just playing like 3-4 days a week, playing all the time. And then later, as the pandemic sort of lifted, Human Impact had a tour in Europe to do. Finally, it was kind of the one that made it through the entire pandemic. There were like 3 or 4 or something different tours that got canceled. But so Phil Paleo and Chris Probdica, who originally had been let go of by Michael Giroff Swans. They originally, that was part of the original lineup, and they were out of Swans and then got pulled back in. And I had been playing with Cooper and John really intensively for months, maybe even a year. And so we had this European tour, and it really made sense to have these guys do it. It really kicked up everything into a more aggressive, powerful mode of playing that I think really, to me, I really like the early stuff, but I think this newer stuff is, to me, a little more rewarding in that it's just more power. It's more geared towards a live show. It's more geared for an audience instead of just being in a studio. So it's really different. But so long story short, sorry, it's been a long story, but John and Cooper are old friends, and we had a European tour that panned out at the end. Jim actually caught COVID during that tour, and we had to end it early. But those guys jumped on board and did that and have been in the band ever since.
So the last time we spoke, if I'm not mistaken, Jim and the other band members were based on the East Coast, and you, Chris, were based on the West Coast. And now things have sort of shifted around, so most of the lineup is based in Texas. And Jim, I believe you're still on the East Coast?
No, we're actually all over the place now.
All over the U.S.
Yeah, Jim is in the South. He's in Savannah, Southeast coast. John is in the Northeast, outside of Portland and Maine. Cooper is in Austin, but probably moving back to New York at one point. And I am in Northern California, north of San Francisco in the Redwoods.
Okay.
So we are all over the country at this point.
So how does songwriting work for a band that's in four corners of the U.S.?
Well,
do you guys carve out time for to be all together, or do you trade files back and forth?
Yeah, we do. With this one, we really did. Me and Jim and me and all the guys, we kind of send files back and forth, and then everybody meets up at Cooper's house in Austin, and we all get together and work on them. I'm still down there a bunch. I still have that place in East Texas, so I'm still down there every once in a while. So me and Coop see each other fairly regularly. But yeah, at this point, with this last record, me and Coop and John got together a bunch. And then Jim came in after we had sort of gotten a few ideas together. And then we all just, we have a place to hang out and rehearse there. So it's pretty intensive for a few weeks,
Can you tell me how or if the two new members affected the sound of the band, or maybe even the way you guys write songs?
I kind of covered that a little bit, but really, me and Coop and John really love to play. Jim sometimes is working, but when he's available, we all love just actually playing it live. Like with this one, we got to play it live. I actually got to work on some of the vocals, as we play them, which is great. Before, a lot of stuff was remote, so you sort of show up and do what you can. But the two new guys it really adds like I said, a much more live oriented version of the band. We just, we get together and just kind of hash shit out in a room all together generally. Although a lot of ideas are done remotely. So you want to add anything, Jim? Sorry to.
No, I think, it's like, it is at the end of the day kind of a hybrid effort of like live and, remote collaboration. It's I don't know. I think this album totally benefited from, being together in a room, but then it's also like it's a long process of developing songs, and some of that process is remote. And then you come back together in a room and just see like, okay, is everything working? And if it's not, we make tweaks.
Yeah, it's kind of cool after you've done sort of live and then remote and live again and remote again, then you get back together towards the end, and you can really adjust all these things so that they're geared for a live performance. You're not just writing stuff in the studio and then being like, oh shit, I got to play that live.
Yeah,
You've
totally.
actually played it live a bunch before you even get to the studio. So
I'll just give a quick pause. Also give a shout out to Andrew Schneider, who recorded the album and was a great partner on, I think it was, his ability to not that we're lacking focus in the studio by any means, but he was able to, focus us in time in that, and like the sounds that he got was really amazing.
Yeah, really amazing. He really pushed us. Like there were times, I'd do something and I'd do it bunch of times, and he'd be like, "Okay, that's perfect. Now do it again." That was kind of his MO, is like he wants multiple different versions to pick from, and so.
Yeah. Previously, you worked with Chris and Phil, who were in Swans. I'm not familiar with all of Coop's work, but I do know Made Out of Babies, and I'm familiar with Daughters. It does seem like with the two new members, they almost come from a newer generation of noise rock or heavy music. And so that's kind of what I was wondering about, how the collaboration has or might have changed the sound of Human Impact, if these guys coming from almost a different background. I mean, I think it's fair to say that they probably grew up on the music that you guys were doing in the 80s and 90s, right?
Oh, I guess so. Me and Cooper have been friends. I mean, I met him when we were both really young. I was, I don't know, early 20s, and he was late teens. So me and Cooper have known each other forever, forever. And I'm sure John is obviously familiar with Unsane and Cop to Cop, but I think Daughters also is a little different from what we do. I mean, I'm sure that he was aware of both bands and everything and listened to both at one point or another, but it's a little different. I think what really, I mean, I agree with you. They are definitely a younger generation of this type of music, but we're all super like-minded, and we're friends, So that's kind of a big part of it to me, is being friends with the people you're in a band with. That's kind of a major issue. If you don't get along with the people you're playing music with, then why bother, in my book. So,
Jim, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I was just thinking about like the road test of who do you want to be in a van with for extended periods of time?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have that, camaraderie or like, mutual kind of like sensibility and respect, yeah, it's not going to last. So.
the last time we spoke, I think, Jim, you said that your sound was representative of your environment. Considering that the environment has changed for both of you guys since you started Human Impact, would you say the sound has changed in that regard as well?
Well, we didn't have any pan flute on the earlier albums, and we do now. I'm
Damn
totally
you, you
kidding.
weren't supposed to mention that. I told you never to bring that up in public.
There's much more wood cutting on this album. I'll say that.
Like,
We do
come on,
we
dude.
do,
Keep the secret. Like, Jesus. Come on.
we do actually have Hurdy.
I was very surprised by the amount of banjo that was on this album.
You noticed that? You noticed that too? Oh my God. You can't get away with anything these days. Try and sneak in the pan flute and banjo and look what happens. Shit.
We do actually have Hurdy Gurdy on this record.
Yeah, we do.
I mean,
That's
true.
true.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. It's like, yeah, we're living in different spaces in different places, right? Maybe outside of urban environments, but I think like the world still creeps in, right? It's like I'm not like so far I'm not like I haven't done any news blackouts, although that might change in a few months. But it's the world is still there. The larger kind of challenges and issues and things are still prevalent. I think like for me, living closer in nature is helpful, but it doesn't change the larger world we're in and that we're responding to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Jim, you know what? I was just kind of thinking. I mean, we kind of get out a lot, honestly. Like Jim's wife, Beth B, just had this huge, massive film show. What would you call that? Film exhibition, I guess. But also, she kind of took over an entire what used to be a crematorium in Berlin, and had projections on the walls, like a swing in a room with projections on that, and a sandbox with projections around that, and then multiple screen projections and live performers who are in a movie doing their part of the movie live, and just this crazy big thing that was awesome, totally amazing, at this place called Silent Green in Berlin. And I was hanging out there for 2 weeks with Jim and Beth. Totally amazing. The like love and camaraderie between all the performers and everybody being so creative and really amazing. And we do travel. We get out a lot. It's not like we're just isolated in the woods all the time. I mean, I am a little bit
living in caves.
Yeah. but we do get out and do stuff like that. And I think that's also part of kind of living, like for me out in the redwoods, is that I can go and do shit and have this crazy kind of really cool, fun, creative aspect of life, but then really silence. When I get home, it's like really nice and quiet and dead, and I can sort of write. I just kind of sit around and write and clear my mind of all the stuff going on around me that was last week or whatever.
So the second album by Human Impact is called Gone Dark, and it will be released on the 4th of October through Ipecac Records. We spoke quite a bit about the sound of the album and how the sound has changed. Last time we spoke about the urban themes that were present on the first album. Do you want to tell me about some of the themes, some of the things you sing about this time around?
Yeah, sure, if you want. I mean, it opens with Collapse, which is sort of, I mean, I guess the overall themes of the record are really about kind of the stuff that we're being sucked into by technology and, our governments and this sort of globalized community. We're really becoming super dependent on electronics and technology in terms of, all your health records, your banking, everything you have is out there. And I personally just feel like the whole thing's pretty frail. It's sort of a recipe for the disaster to be so dependent on all these electronics. I mean, we'll see. Who am I to predict the future? I'm not trying to, but I just feel like we're all being pulled into something through sort of convenience and expediency to, oh, it's so easy to get this done now and this done now and this done now. And people are starting to not really pay attention to how vulnerable they may be by this, this world of convenience being presented.
It's the price of freedom.
Yeah, there you go. I know. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's kind of the title of the record, actually, Gone Dark, is really, kind of about like that sort of blackout, here we go, we're going dark, I'm disappearing. Or it could also mean sort of another way of putting it, or another way of interpreting that phrase would be to say things have sort of gone to a darker place. I think we're just being fed a bunch of shitty, horrible information, really manipulated by the internet, by this technology that is so convenient and easy for everyone. So anyway, that's the general theme, I would say.
Jim, do you want to add anything?
No, I mean, Chris and I are pretty much on the same page. I mean, Chris writes all the lyrics, but I think like our kind of worldview and sensibility is totally aligned, just both personally, but also, with what we do musically, right? And also like even like what we do visually, right? With the videos, I think it's all kind of the same kind of sensibility and vision.
Yeah.
So I do think like in the face of that, this is something we've talked about a little bit recently, is like in the face of that, right? It's like on face value, this can be kind of like seemingly a depressing worldview, right? And I do think, yeah, we're in a time where it's kind of dark and depressing, right? What do you do in the face of that, right? Like we're being creative, we're making music, and that is a type of reaction, and it changes the game for us, right? So it's empowering.
Yeah, it's a way to sort of really humanize and sort of say like fuck this. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, or a response. And I don't know if I don't consider it depressing. I think telling something the way it is or the way I see it is cathartic, and at the same time being able to express my resistance to this sort of manipulative grooming. It's psychologically, at least for me, it's really good for me. Instead of just sitting in a chair and being like, fuck, this fucking sucks, I can actually say something, and just do what, express myself and be creative in the face of this sort of, I mean, we'll see what happens. You never know. This could be AI could liberate all of us.
I'm sure it'll work out well.
Oh yeah, it's gonna go great. You're just positive,
When have corporations ever let us wrong?
Yeah, we just have to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no kidding.
We just need to trust our leaders. It'll all be okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So the last time we spoke, you mentioned you were already working on music for a new album, but that was back with the old lineup, back with Chris and Phil. Is any of that music on Gone Dark, or is most of it on the EP?
Only Imperative is Gone Dark, which was written earlier, but we re-recorded it, with John and Coop. Other than that, everything on Gone Dark is new material from the get-go with John and Coop.
Although there's some aspects from the old stuff. There's definitely pieces that we had done before. We wrote like 26 songs or something during the pandemic, and there were certain aspects of that, certain little riffs or inflections that I thought were really cool that I definitely pulled a couple and used them in parts. Just so you know, Jim, if you were aware of that.
Okay, yeah.
It was the banjo. You got me. Yeah.
That's right.
What happens to the music that you haven't released?
Sits on a hard drive.
Yeah. We have a shit ton of stuff. I think that a lot of to me, my aspect of it, I can't speak for everybody. Some of it was kind of, you're alone in a room writing, and you're sort of writing as therapy when you're locked down and don't see people, So I think it was just my personal crap was something of a downer a little bit. It didn't have the energy that being in a room with three, with John, Coop, and Jim will have. You know what I mean? Which is a lot of the reason why we basically really cleaned the slate, besides Imperative, and went in to just play these live, you know. Yeah, I think that for me, just writing wise, it's good to be in a room with other people, you know, and try your ideas with them, and then let that develop from there, sort of organically, instead of just, you know, writing 26 songs and being like, oh, how's this, you know. We did some of them, but you know, Imperative was written during that period of time, and I really like that one. So you know, did get something out of it. We got one.
As you mentioned, you worked with Andrew Schneider as an engineer. Chris, you seem to have worked with Andrew Schneider quite a bit in the past.
Yes, a lot. He remastered the first record when we reissued that. Obviously, I think really, he's done a few Unsane records and also other stuff I've had where I just come in and say, hey, can you help me mix? And Andrew is a very good friend and has done a ton of stuff. But I really think and always have thought like Queen, the Unsane record of Queen, may be the best sounding album Unsane did. Andrew was amazing. This is the most incredible year I've ever, dealt with making a record with somebody. Knows me and us very well. So we're all friends, and it's really easy for him to say, perfect, do it again after you've done it, 25 times. We just have a really good working relationship, very relaxed, and it actually makes it really super fun. He'll do things like have 4 guitar amps for one track, which may seem a bit redundant, but at the same time, when you're done, he really can pull in little aspects of like, an old Marshall JMP in with a AC30 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like he can use all these different amps where I'm using a Pro Reverb and, so he makes this crazy balance with the tone of the things we do and everything, whatever. Andrew's just a great guy and really an amazing producer and engineer, just the best ear, so.
Besides your relationship with him and your history of working with him, what did you want Andrew to bring to the sound of this album?
And we discussed this, we sort of referenced Queen, honestly. It would just, he did a lot of stuff like, so we really went back to kind of the best sounding Unsane record, and in my eyes or my ears. And we didn't want to exactly replicate that, but at the same time, we wanted to keep that in mind as we were recording and use that sort of really powerful drum and bass backdrop for what, me and Jim are doing. A lot of the bass, which he did this with Visqueen and did it with this one too. Not so much with the drums, because the drums sounded really good. We recorded at Cedar Creek in Austin, Texas, which is an amazing studio. It's like all wood out in the woods, but an all wood room and building. So everything sounds very warm and thick. But he tends to do stuff like he's taken drums and put them through a PA in a room, so you get that real live punk rock kind of sound that you can kind of bring in if you want, with a bunch of room mics going on too. And then also reamping bass through kind of different stuff that's going to add more low or add more sort of crispier highs. He reamped a lot of Jim's synths so that they have a different sound in different parts. He's just super creative. And we were just really going, because this record was done when we're live, we were going for more of a live sound. So we really tried to keep that in mind, as he was recording it. And we spoke about it before we even started. So.
Yeah, Visqueen was like kind of a starting reference, and Andrew was big, like the right person for it. Definitely wanted the kind of heaviness, but also focus that was on Visqueen, and I think we got it.
Jim, is it tricky bringing in the synths and the atmospheric elements from your contributions into the mix? Because it seems like at certain points those elements might get lost.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as challenging as you might think. I mean, they're typically not like, oh, now let's add the synths. They're kind of part of the writing process too. So oftentimes Chris and I will be doing something even that's, maybe playing off each other on certain frequencies or melodic lines that kind of veer off and create disharmony in a way. So, I mean, even the writing process, it's kind of, there's intentionality to it in terms of the larger landscape, right? I like to play a lot with like where it does get to be tricky is like, some of the low end stuff, right? Is like differentiating bass and the low end electronics. So I think Andrew was really aware of that, and he mixed it well.
I thought Andrew did a better job than I could ever imagine anyone being able to do. Like at the end of Reform, I think there's like 2 or 3 guitar tracks going on, and then there's like 3 or 4 synth tracks, and like you mentioned, that low end thing, and he managed to really make it all audible. It doesn't turn into a big pile of mush. Everything is very distinct in its own way. I mean, if you know it's there, I guess, sneaking in the banjo was also very rough. Sorry. But you know what I mean, Jim. He did a really fucking good job with that, man. I like some
Absolutely.
stuff. I was shocked because there's also backing vocals and and main vocal and everything, and like the whole thing really fits together like this. It's just an amazing kind of puzzle that he
Yeah.
put together and had everything be audible and very distinct.
So the last time we spoke, I think you had only played together live once, and since then you've gone on a few tours. What have you learned from playing live with regards to Human Impact?
Huh.
What worked and
I've learned that I love it. It's fucking awesome. It's it's amazing because you get it when Jim can do this shit with a giant PA. When you have a big PA and you get to hear everything so just amazingly loud and visceral, like you really feel it. Because some of his stuff, like he was mentioning this low end thing, some of it's just fucking bone shakingly low. So when you get in a place where you can actually hear all this really well, it's just amazing. As on the record, I don't know if you notice, on the record, there's sort of interstitials in between songs where things lead into each other, and there's sort of, I can fuck around and Jim can fuck around, and create sort of a whole new atmosphere in between songs. That really, to me, worked live. It was just amazingly fun to sort of end a song and then it's like, and then there's sort of this really cool textural, atmospheric thing. Like on the record, there's some stuff like I'd gone around and recorded stuff with microphones on my wrists, left and right, and done some live recording of like a woman screaming outside of a bank and just weird live stuff. So then Jim's actually able to put that stuff in there too. And in a live context, it's kind of like how the stuff with Cop Shoot Cop was. Jim, you did some sample stuff where you hear that in like a club or venue context, and it really brings that atmosphere to that place. You know what I mean? Like you're in a big room with a giant PA, and suddenly you're on Sixth Avenue and 14th Street or something. It kind of really it I don't know. It makes the whole live experience for me even better, even better. Because before I've done like loops and feedback and crap like that, and which I still love doing, but to have this added textural element that Jim adds to the live show to me is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the live shows are always like kind of like, in a way, the heart of it. I mean, not at all to like minimize, writing and recording and mixing, right? It's all part of it, but somehow like the music we're doing, I do feel is like meant to be experienced live, and for us meant to be played live. So that's like our home. When we're able to play, it's like it's all good.
by the time people hear this episode or watch it on YouTube, the album will be out. Do you guys have any plans for tours for the rest of the year or maybe early 2025?
Yeah, we're looking at spring of 2025. We're looking at, I think it's like April 5th, middle of April until like first week of May. I think we're going to be playing Roadburn, which I can safely say because it's not been announced, but this won't come out until after it's already announced. So yeah, we're gonna kind of do a Europe thing. I think we're gonna try next year to do just some kind of small U.S. things, kind of do like the Northeast or Midwest or West Coast, and just kind of do different like 3, 4 show sequences. We were originally going to try and tour in November, but Cooper and John's wife has already had the baby, but Cooper's girl is due with a baby in January. So we're kind of giving the guys some time to hang with the infants. You know, to give them some time with their new kids. So, so it's going to be a little while, but April. And then I think after that, we'll cut into the summer and do more stuff. So, yeah, there's stuff on the horizon.
Given that your music pulls from, you don't fit neatly into any one genre, what kind of bands do you look forward to tour with? What kind of bands do you like to play with?
Oh, I mean, Jim, you can take this, but obviously, sorry to steal it, but we would love to tour with Jesus Lizard. Like they just put out a new record, and they're like friends. We've known them forever. So them, it's kind of there are bands like them and Melvins that I would both love to tour with.
So, by the time people hear this episode or watch it on YouTube, Gone Dark will be out through Ipecac Records. Chris and Jim, please tell everyone how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
The best way is to order it through the Ipecac web store or Bandcamp. It's the easiest, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
And do you want to say anything about the vinyl version that Ipecac is putting out for this?
Oh,
There's a limited edition of colored vinyl. Yeah, I don't know the quantity, but there's a limited edition of colored vinyl for it. So if you're interested in that.
and I have to say, it's just a personal preference, but man, vinyl sounds awesome.
Big time.
Like I've listened to every version of this record, digital, every different possible situation, and the vinyl sounds incredible. So if you get a chance, get the vinyl.
And how can people get merch? Does all of that go through the Bandcamp page?
Yeah, it should. Yeah. Or come see us live. That's kind of the easiest.
Yeah, I think the easiest is come see us live if you can.
And if people want to follow Human Impact online and get updates and find out about the tour that you guys mentioned, what's the best way to do that?
I think our main thing we're doing now is Instagram. It's Human Impact Band Instagram. We also do a Facebook, Human Impact Band Facebook. We have a site. To be honest, I got to update it. But the Instagram and Facebook are primary ways.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, Ipecac is really fucking good. Ipecac really is good at getting the word out and doing everything. So, I mean, check out other bands on Ipecac as well. It's a great label. They're super cool. Really support independent music and have some other really good bands on their label as well.
All right, cool. So once again, you guys have been very generous with your time, but is there anything else you want to say?
Support local music. That's about it. Go see live bands and don't pay $80 to go see some band that beats each other up.
Oh my God. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like clubs that are struggling, going out of business. So
Yeah.
good to support.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.